few days ago, only a few days ago, Professor Pennis asked me if to come here and if I could do this soiree. And and she said it needs to have some kind of a topic. So I thought immediately about the subject of recordings, because that was the immediate thought that came to my mind, because this past year, the entire year, I actually dedicated myself to recordings. I spent a lot of time doing that after actually many years. These are commercial recordings. I have not recorded in more than 15 years commercially. So I thought it will be a very good topic because it's a very excellent thing to do if you ever plan to pursue hopefully music career. It's a very important thing to have a recording. It's beneficial it's like your calling card. I mean, you put your stamp on it and people recognize you for it, and it can help you a lot. It can open doors for you in jobs, in performances, in many different things that you cannot even think when you do that. You can't expect. Basically you are revealing yourself to the public by recording, because it's going to be available all over the world. I released one recording I already released last month. It's music by Latin American composers. I called it Latin American Piano Jams. And the other recording I just finished 2 weeks ago, and it will be released in early 2025. And these are works by a living composer, one of my best friends, and it's actually a piano cycle. It's 24 preludes. It's called 24 Preludes of Dusk and Dawn. And my friend, his name is Ronn Yedidia. He lives in New Jersey, and he actually wrote them. He composed them during the COVID year. So what I want to say is that the recording industry has changed tremendously. I don't know if you are even, I'm sure you've seen that before, but you know that CD, how many of you have CD collections? Little bit, that's nice. Well, 4 of you. It's, I have at home like 600 CDs. CDs used to be a wonderful thing, a fun thing to go and buy and purchase and and listen to. But it has become almost like a dinosaur nowadays, and things have changed a lot. But the streaming platform with which you are so familiar, I see everybody walking all day with phones and headphones, listening to music. So of course, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, everything. It's in a way it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper than purchase one CD, and it's also very accessible, because anyone can listen to you, anyone, wherever they are. So there is something perhaps also positive about it, because I think it's very accessible. Who knows, maybe it will actually increase the listening to classical music. I don't know, but there is positive aspect to it. And not needless to say that when I was your age, there was no social media, of course, so you can really publicize your recordings a lot also on your own. The one important thing that changed already 30 years ago, meaning that back then there was still CDs and still CD distribution, all of that still existed, but the one thing that changed, that when I came to America, is that we were guided and encouraged not to record just the standard repertoire, Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, Mozart, and so forth, but go find something unique that was never recorded before, because the record industry was really looking for new projects. And I mean, in the last 30 years, the market is flooded by wonderful recordings of repertoire that just was not available before, and so that takes a research, and you need to be very open to a lot of repertoire. In my case, actually I will tell you, when I did my first CD, So I went ahead and recorded the entire piano works of my native country's national composer, which is Israel. It was never done before. I mean, here and there somebody recorded maybe one piece, two pieces, but the whole collection I actually recorded 2 CDs, and it felt wonderful because it's a great contribution also, it's a contribution and it's very satisfying to us as performers and it's very important. Now when you do recording like that, and especially if it's repertoire that you don't, again, it's not one of the standard composers. I mean, I believe very strongly that we must be passionate about it. I mean, we have to believe in this repertoire, that it's really worth recording. Now, the second recording that I just finished 2 weeks ago is by my friend, and that means living composers, and that's of course another aspect that I always encourage you. Now, if you are a composer yourself, maybe one day you will record your own pieces, but you can also, you should network, and I mean, you should be friends with composers and explore what people are writing and see, maybe you have some great chemistry with some repertoire that you think it's wonderful to record. So that's like the other aspect. I mean, usually people recorded could be unknown composers or less known composers from the periods of classical music that we all know, from Baroque till, 20th century, and then of course a lot of contemporary composers that their music was never done, and already a lot has been done in the last few decades. So this is, so my topic is choosing repertoire for recording. It's something, it's a very, very interesting, one of Clyde revealed to me, is that okay? Yeah, Clyde revealed to me yesterday that he's going to make a recording, and it's also music from his native country, from the Philippines. So it's incredible because it's probably going to be all, pioneer work, never done before, and it's just a great feeling. And with CDs, most likely you will also get reviews. I mean, that's also part of what I said. It can open doors for you. It can help you on your resume. But of course, you have to really feel passionate about it. And sometimes you can also do nowadays recordings without a label. You can just record independent CD and put it on Spotify. Are you aware of it? You all know that. I mean, you have to get some kind of a permission. There is some process, but it's easy. So I just want to. I just wanted to say that sometimes, when I recorded Ben Chaim, Paul Ben Chaim, that's the national composer of Israel, I was encouraged back then to do one composer CD. It was very important. The whole collection of a composer. And of course, nowadays there are different ways to do things. I mean, you can do one composer, you can do a collection. You can also mix it with standard repertoire. If you feel that you really want to record Chopin ballad and it's your best ever, I mean, you can mix it with other pieces, maybe ballad by a living composer, or something. You can find a theme of. There are so many ways to find great repertoire, and there is still repertoire that wasn't done. Believe it or not, or wasn't done enough. Even by the famous composers. Even some pieces, even unless someone recorded the whole thing, but how many people? I mean, there are some pieces that are not as, even Beethoven, I mean, they are not as, you know how many recordings of Beethoven sonatas, but there are other pieces that he wrote. I mean, bagatelles. I mean, there are even Schumann pieces that are less famous, less popular, let's say it. And still great repertoire. So this is that's the main thing about recording. Of course, I'm going to play a little bit for my Latin American recording. It includes pieces by 5 composers, 2 from Argentina, Carlos Guastavino, which I just found out that one of you knows and played something. Do you know this name? Anybody knows Carlos Guastavino? Only Harrison. Okay, well, but you see that, so that's why I recorded, and there are not that many there are some recording of him, not a lot, maybe 2, 3, or some. He was like the romantic composer of Argentina, as opposed to Ginastera. You know, Ginastera is like Prokofiev, and Guastavino is like Rachmaninoff, sort of, I mean, in general. He was born 1912, he died in 2000. I mean, not that long ago. And then Piazzolla, I'm sure everybody knows. And then Villa-Lobos, that's a familiar name, a composer of Brazil. I think he's maybe the most famous Latin American composer. I mean, him and Ginastera, I would put them probably at the top of the list in terms of popular. And I recorded also one small piece by Mexican composer, Manuel Ponce, and few pieces by Lecuona, Ernesto Lecuona, very popular in Florida. The Cuban community here is big in Miami. I mean, there are a lot of people playing some pieces by Lecuona in, I know here in the area. So we have Argentina, Brazil, Cuba, and Mexico. So I will play a little bit, then I would love you to ask questions, and at the very end I would love to play one sample from my new recording, one prelude from Ronn, from my friend, which is very different than what you expect for 21st century, because he can write in many different styles. He's a classical pianist, he's a jazz pianist. He plays accordion. I mean, he really is incredibly versatile. But that specific set of preludes is completely inspired by the great masters. I mean, Chopin, Liszt, Rachmaninoff, French composers, Scriabin. I mean, you will see that still very original language of his Israeli flavor to the composition. So I will end with one. After we talk, I will end with 2 short pieces. And so I'm going to start with Guastavino Las Niñas, which is the solo arrangement of the composer to the first movement of a piece for 2 pianos. It's actually much more popular in the 2-piano arrangement. It's called Tres Romances Argentinos. So that's the first movement solo arrangement from the 1950s. Lecuona, you will hear the Afro-Cuban rhythm. You know, in Latin jazz there is a lot of Afro-Cuban influence. That's one piece from this Afro-Cuban suite. He wrote many suites with different movements, and all of them are just, it's very, perhaps Lecuona was maybe the most folkish of all. I mean, you know, Latin American music, one of the main components that is so much inspired by the people, by the folk music, and the rhythm is so important. I mean, there is gorgeous melodies, rich harmonies, and very sharp rhythm in Latin American music. Villa-Lobos, and this is Alma Brasileira. It's very representative of Brazilian music, and it has this ABA section, form, so that you will see the B section, the middle section is very cool Brazilian rhythm, and it's also part of a group. The subtitle is Choros, number 5. He wrote several of them. Choros means in Portuguese actually to cry, to weep, and it's a popular type of piece in Brazil for many instruments. This piece needs middle pedal. Sometimes it's really tricky. It needs middle pedal a lot because we need to hold the bass. It's a beautiful intermezzo. Manuel Ponce. He wrote two of them. This is number one. Questions. I mean, I would like you to. Do you have any questions about recording, the recording process? Yes, please.
Just say those names of the composers and pieces one more time.
Of course. Yes. We don't have it. Yeah. Okay. Carlos Guastavino, G-U-A. Yeah, that's Argentina. Yeah, okay. The second one from Argentina, Astor. I'm sorry. What? Oh, the piece, Las Niñas. Yeah, Las Niñas, the little girls. It's a nostalgic piece that he wrote. L-A-S. Maybe I can. Do you want me to give it to you? Maybe.
Sure.
Maybe I'll give you after the class. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll give you after the class. Any questions? Please, don't be shy. I mean, yes. Jenna. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to record one album?
How long it took me? I did it. What?
How many sessions?
Good question. That was exactly a year. Well, in June. I did it last summer, June to August. But I did, I think, 4 sessions of. Sometimes we book more, and then it's a bit less. I don't remember if it was somewhere were 3 hours, somewhere 4 hours. I mean, it's not an easy repertoire to record actually because it's very rich. There's so many notes and little notes and chromaticism and things and chords and chords that are changing rapidly. So yeah, something like that. I don't know, maybe 12, 13 hours. And yeah, so that's and you don't have to do a complete recording in one day. I mean, you could, but it depends. That's how I had to do it. That was my need. I remember that 19 years ago, I was faster. I did it a little bit quicker, the other CD, but in any case, yes. Yes, Jim.
I'm
It's a nice question. I like to do first of all complete take. I do now if it's a sonata or something like that, as then the movement. Usually I will do one movement at a time. I mean, it also depends how big it is. I mean, I think if you record hammer clavier, you don't want to go through the whole thing. Definitely not many times. So you start. Yeah, I like to do complete sessions, complete take. Then maybe I will do even another one, and then I will see where do we need to. You know, that's the thing. That's a very important thing. Have you ever done recordings before? Actually, you done with editing and all of this? Oh, not with editing. You just did recording, right? Like that's a very common thing we all do. So you mean that you just played and it was recorded? No, but I'm talking about edited recording. You've never done probably. Okay, so that's completely different story. It's completely different thing. And on one hand, I mean, you can take it easy. I mean, it's not live. It's not anything. But I find it actually a bit stressful because it's really interesting because in live performance, honestly, if you miss 2 notes, I mean, it's really no big deal. Now in recording, on one hand you can correct, but then you have to repeat and repeat. I mean, if you missed something, then you have to correct it. So you have to do some sections and things, and you have to make sure that it matches what you did before. If you start from the middle, or you know what I mean, it's quite a task. It's quite a task. You have to be very aware, and you have to have also someone. Good producer, the person who will record you, who sits with the music, and they have to be very alert and know and help you also know. Well, maybe sometimes you missed a note and you don't even remember by the end of the movement where was it. So you know what I mean. We have to be extremely focused, very alert, but also great producer. So yes, yeah.
When you're only recording for the microphone and the producer, how do you replicate that live energy that I think we all play better in front of an audience?
I agree. No, I agree, but I think I call it simply experience. It's experience, but of course, I mean, for example, they are young people, although I think many of you are very experienced performing, I mean, actually all of you. But I think we have to let go, we have to learn, we have to play, like the first take I need to play like it's a concert, definitely. And then, as the recording goes by, I mean, you have to relax. It's hard to explain in words, but it's an excellent question because, yes, you a little bit uptight at the beginning, you worried, oh, I'm gonna miss that and I'm gonna miss that. Although you need to understand that you can correct anything, but you still want to avoid that, like as much as possible, so you become a little bit stressed out. And while I mean, Glenn Gould felt much better in the recording studio than on stage, and he stopped playing. That's really interesting. And he was fanatic about every note, if you know about him. But it's just he liked recordings more than concerts. But yeah, I mean, it's a matter of experience and some kind of a work. We have to work on ourselves when we get to the studio. Okay, I'm playing now like it's a concert. And then that actually makes you feel better as it goes. Yeah. Yes, Harrison.
As someone who knows zero about the editing process, could you just give us a description of how it works and how involved you are artistically?
Okay. Now I'm not doing the actual technical work, but what we have to do. I don't know how maybe I mean, some people I know. For example, all the very famous, most famous artists. I don't think they sit at home and listen to takes. I suspect that they have such top producers that maybe they do. I listen to everything. The recording engineer gives me send me by attachment Google Drive, everything, and it's marked. Take 1, take 2, take 3, whatever it is, the whole thing, the whole session, and I listen to everything. That's actually the most difficult thing to do. It's more difficult than recording. You have to listen to yourself, you have to choose the takes, and then of course, and you have to mark for the editor, for the engineer, okay, measure this to measure this, 3 minutes, 22 seconds to, yeah, I mean, it's very scientific. And you have to, many times you have to, you listen to something, and then you listen again, and you forget a little bit, and then you think, oh, sometimes you have an immediate, okay, that's the take I want. And sometimes you're not sure, and you have to go back and forth. It can take sometimes an hour or two on one piece. I mean, it could. Yeah, so that's good question. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess like a follow-up is, do you ever just record a small section in the first session you do? Or is it always later
No.
session?
No, of course I do, because it has to do with the pieces. I divided the pieces between the sessions. So let's say I decided to do 3 pieces in the first session. So of course there will be some moments where I will do a section, because it's case by case. Now, if I come home and I didn't like something, so in the next session I can actually still repeat something from the old stuff, from the first session. I mean, we can do anything. It costs money.
And the piano has to be the same.
That's of course. So you must go back, of course, and it has to be tuned. I mean, it's always, and you pay for it. I mean, in recording sessions, you also pay for the tuning. I mean, recording is not cheap. It's quite costly. I mean, if you can do it if you can do it in the school or something, or in a place, maybe it's less costly. But if you do it in a studio, it's not cheap. We definitely don't make much money out of it. So you probably ask me, so why do you do it? But I mean, I think I enjoy, it's very satisfying to know that you produced something that you feel like you're so passionate about it. I mean, I love this repertoire. I didn't actually even say, you're good, I didn't say the story with, I didn't have an intention to actually record Latin American music, although I love it. I had some pieces in the repertoire before, but then when COVID began, my wonderful friend in Baltimore, her name is Nancy Roldan, she's Argentinian pianist, and she decided, it was the 20th anniversary for Guastavino, she knew him in person, she actually wrote a dissertation at Peabody on some of his music, and she decided to start a festival, a virtual festival, where she invited, she asked friends, would you like to record some things? But that needed to be an unedited recording. I mean, it has to be like a concert, like all of us did that during COVID, playing and then they did they uploaded, they made a program out of all those videos and with interviews and things, and broadcast. That was part of COVID years, and and then what happened? She asked me. By 2023, I played 4 pieces by Guastavino, and then suddenly, I said, "My goodness! I mean, I have a whole CD. I mean, it kind of, how sometimes the best things in our life or in our career that happens by coincidence. So it was not actually like a real plan for a long time. It just suddenly happened, and I said, I'm just going to record, because Guastavino is not that popular, and the pieces are incredible. So it happened, and yeah. Any other? Yes.
So, if there's any, what do you think the difference is in preparation for recital and in preparation for recording? So, in terms of how you practice, if there's any difference.
I feel that it's actually the same preparation. I mean, I prepare for the recording the same way. We need, because we want to feel prepared. Even if we know that, okay, we can make mistakes and it can be corrected, I need to feel that. I know the pieces. I will not go to a recording session without really feeling super prepared, and I can play all the pieces. So actually there is no difference. There is a difference on stage or in the recording studio. There's some difference. I already mentioned state of mind is a bit different, and some people get more stressed, some people more relaxed, but it gets better as after your first, second, third takes. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, we are perfectly on time. I mean, I want to introduce to you we don't have that much time, but the first, my dear friend Ronn, which he's a great virtuoso himself, but he doesn't really perform as a classical pianist anymore. I mean, unless it's his pieces, He actually performed in a band. Like a lot of, he has jazz band and he has a klezmer band, I mean some folk music and things that he does a lot also as an accordion player. But he writes mostly for piano, enormous amount of music, and so it would be good for you to know him. I mean, you can always ask me anything, I mean, website and things, I mean, he has a YouTube channel. So he wrote like 24 preludes. It's a little bit of an homage, you know, the old days. I mean, he's forgive me for using this word, he's a Chopin freak. He studied with a very famous Israeli legendary pianist, Pnina Zaltzman, who was a student of Cocteau. Who was a Chopin legend. And in any case, I would play so this I finished. This I already finished all the 24, but now some of the editing is ready, but not everything, because some anyway, it's gonna be all ready, I think, in August, and it takes about 6 months, by the way, for the label to release a CD, at least in my case. I mean, it takes 6 months from the moment you give them the material until it's officially released. Let me play the first Prelude, C-sharp minor. Actually, I have to tell you that this cycle, this project, is probably one of the most challenging and difficult projects I did in my life. I hope I'm going to be very proud of it, because there are some preludes that are so difficult, so virtuosic. I mean, he writes, it's different. It's, you know, each different style, each prelude, and it's really great music. I mean, I hope you like it, just to taste. It's very romantic, but there are different types of preludes in the cycle. But in general, it's more on the romantic side, and sometimes you hear French sounds, and there is also one prelude. The one before last, number 23, is an homage to Chicoria. There is some little. It's a slow prelude actually, but there's a beautiful echoes from. I mean, it's jazzy, a little bit jazzy. And so I want to end with the last track on my Latin American CD. This is happens to be my own arrangement. One of the most famous pieces, actually, in the repertoire, which I mean, in the world, which is Oblivion by Piazzolla. And I took the piano trio score. I played many. I mean, I don't know how many years. 15 years ago, maybe. Suddenly, one day, I did the trio. I had the trio score, and I just started to put it together to a solo piece, and I just played all voices. It didn't seem anything too difficult. It was very natural, and I just made a piece. But I don't have a score yet. And many people ask me for the score. I hope it's a plan. It's a really plan to do soon, and to put it just simply into writing and maybe publish it. So do you know the piece? You must know. I mean, I think so. I don't know. Oblivion. Do you know it's yeah? Some of you. Okay.